welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, this is Jessikah with Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast, and I'm actually back with you. I don't know if you recall.
Absolutely, I
Yeah,
recall.
we talked about dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Was that
And that was book two.
Was that 2 years ago?
2 years, yeah, 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think it was shortly after I spoke to you that I started writing this book. So, yeah.
This book is very different. So let me do
Yeah.
more of an intro. Again,
Mhm.
yeah, this is Jessikah with Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. And as I was just saying, we are here with Disha Bose.
Mhm.
And she wrote a book called Dirty Laundry about 2 years ago, and it was this really awesome, juicy, suburban, domestic thriller. And she's back with a book that is so different and also so compelling in a completely different way. I just could not put it down. I cared very deeply for the characters immediately. I will blossom anyway.
Mhm.
So if you could, Disha, could you give the audience just a little taste of
Mm.
what this book is about and maybe a little bit about what kind of compelled you to start writing it?
I'd say this book is sort of an ode to my 20s, really. And I wanted to kind of capture that feeling of moving to a new country and building a life from scratch in a new place, which I experienced in my 20s, actually in two different countries, because I lived in the UK for a while. And then I met my then boyfriend, now husband, who's Irish, and then we moved to Ireland. So I had two big moves, and yet I couldn't sort of disconnect from my life and my childhood in India. And that sort of left a big mark on me. And I wanted to capture that emotion. And that's sort of where the characters took root for me in this book, which is about Durga, who's a 20-something Indian woman born and raised in India. And she moves to Ireland with a new job. And I wanted to make the book about finding love, finding a new home, making a new family, finding friends, but also about finding yourself and just self-love and growing as a human being, no matter where you are. And that's kind of where the title was inspired by as well. That's sort of the essence of the book.
Yeah, it was really lovely. And there's a few things I can talk about and a few things I don't want to talk about because I was
Mm,
actually not expecting certain things to happen. And
yeah,
I would much rather the audience experience it the way that I
find
did
out for
because
themselves. Yeah.
and I think you know what I'm talking about
Yes, yes,
specifically.
I do.
Um, yeah, but when you first meet, so Durga is named after a goddess, and
Hmm.
she is a peaceful goddess, but her other side is Kali, is it?
Yes, yes. So exactly right. Durga is a peaceful goddess, and she has this other side, which is Kali, who is the best way to describe her would be this lady doesn't take it lying down. Like
Yeah,
she's going
she doesn't take it
no,
at all.
no,
Yes.
she's definitely she's not an evil goddess according to Hindu mythology. She's just Durga's darker side, things that Durga wouldn't do because she's a peace-loving, kind, gentle soul. Kali will sort of do for her, and I wanted to sort of demonstrate that in sort of a human form where Durga is trying to find Kali within herself, find that other version who'll stand up for herself and advocate for herself and isn't afraid of speaking her mind. Yeah.
And I think though that like you do bring up a good point that I think, people automatically think like, well, if it's the other side of the peaceful goddess, this has to be
Mm,
evil. And that's
no,
not really the case. It's so much more complex than that.
complex,
And
absolutely.
yeah, but Durga, you meet her and she's she's waiting for somebody and she meets somebody and it could be a very nice meet cute. But
Mm,
as with many other things in this book, nothing goes directly the way that you think it's going to, which makes it very much a relatable book. You
mm,
find out that she had had a very serious relationship with her best friend slash roommate's brother,
hmm
Jacob, and it's ended. And part of that is, or a lot of it is, she's not comfortable taking him to meet her family.
hmm
She has met his and Joy's family
hmm
like a lot, and they're lovely. It's a whole situation that kind of puts them at odds, and it also is awkward for Durga and Joy,
hmm
who are close,
hmm
and who just kind of wants to see things work out for both of them. The way that the different relationships kind of play out in the story, as I said before, it's very nuanced and very natural, but in the way that like you can very easily think that, okay, she's talking to this person, so now this
This
is
is going to happen. Yeah.
exactly. And it
Yeah.
doesn't. And that
Yeah.
happens kind of over and
Yeah.
over again, which brings us really full circle, but also not.
Mm.
How did you approach those situations when you were writing the book? Did you have like a structure of who she was going to meet when, or did certain situations surprise you as you were writing them?
I think I never write following a plot. I'm just one of those writers, and I wouldn't recommend it, but I just never have a plot. I start with the characters, and it's hard to describe, but I start with a feeling for the characters, and then I kind of take it from there. But with this book specifically, I think I wanted to, like I was saying, capture that feeling of discomfort and not finding that happily ever after that, you've been dreaming of. And every time, I suppose, the characters were reaching a comfortable point in the plot where I thought maybe readers would like this to blossom into, like you said, a meet cute or a happily ever after. I try to just make it that bit uncomfortable for the characters to just see where it might lead. Nothing overly, well, there is something that's sad that kind of happens in the plot, but nothing, no one is evil in the book. I didn't want to make very stark black and white characters, but rather have them make difficult choices in uncomfortable circumstances, maybe sometimes. And yeah, the story completely followed the usual pattern that I follow, which is take its flow. I did want to eventually make Durga find herself and help her kind of love herself for who she is. That was the main aim for the story for me, but just kind of meandered my way through it. And a lot of the story, like most writers will attest, is drawn from personal experiences and people you meet and situations that I myself have been in. So I've kind of like tried to mix all of that. And the story is very close to my heart, in a lot of ways true to my life. There are glimpses of that as well.
The relationship also that Durga has with her siblings and her
Mm,
parents is very natural and very relatable. I think that's one of the things I really felt just sort of compelled and drawn into also.
mm,
Even though she doesn't want to, or she doesn't think that it would be a great idea to introduce Jacob to her family, and that kind of causes the whole breakup situation and the whole
yeah.
rift. When you meet her family, it's so you get a lot of the ideas and a lot of her feelings about the different people in her
Mm,
family. And then when you meet her
yeah.
family, I'm not going to say that it's all complete misconceptions and you're just like, oh, this is all in your head. But you do kind of see those glimmers of, hey, these people have their things going on too.
Yeah,
That
exactly. Yeah.
exactly. And it really just again made for a very delightful read. Did you have a lot of just differences in how you approached her romantic prospects with her friend prospects with her family.
Yeah, definitely. I think and especially because there's such a geographical shift between the romance which happens in Ireland and then obviously her family dynamics, which is in India. She goes to India to be with her family. There was a complete change of mood, sensations, like sensory overload. And I don't know if you remember that scene where she lands in India from the flight to the airport. And that to me felt very personal because that's how I feel every time I'm in India. It's such a cultural shift for me as well. So it was in a lot of ways easy to write that difference because of the geographical and cultural shift in the two sections of the book. And also, like you were saying with the family, I think that that's something that I had to learn as well through my 20s, which is we're always there's a tendency for all of us to navel gaze and kind of assume that everything is just about us. In your 20s, you are the center of your world, sort of in your teenage years and your 20s. And that's kind of what Durga goes through as well, where she's trying to understand her family, please them because she loves them so much and they're wonderful characters, but also then realizing that they also have their own problems and they're also worried and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And you go and you go to this wedding, and I mean and weddings are actually just a wonderful plot point for drama, I
Yeah,
have to say.
yeah.
Like every time a book has a wedding in it, I'm never I'm never hoping for and everything went smoothly and everybody made it
Yes.
themselves and nobody talked behind each other's back. I'm always like, okay, this is where you're gonna get
Yes,
it
the
all. This is
drama.
where
Yeah,
all the
absolutely.
juicy stuff is gonna come
Yes.
out. But when you were talking before about the different the differences between she goes back to India and she's living in
Mm,
Ireland. There's a line in it where somebody tells her you can have two homes.
mm,
And I thought that that was really just really well put and well thought out, because I feel like a lot of times
mm.
the concentration is, oh, well, where is your one true home?
Home.
And
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a one true home. Some people's
No.
true home can be a person.
A
Some people's
feeling, a
true home,
memory. Yeah.
some people's true home can
So,
be several places.
yes, exactly that. Exactly. And that is kind of in a nutshell, that's what the book is, that line, exactly that, which is then to accept it as well. I think there isn't always a willingness to accept that you could belong to two different places. And I think that's something that a lot of people who've immigrated or just moved around a lot in life, which again I've had all my life because my dad was in the Air Force. So truly, in a true sense, even within India, I don't I never knew where home really was because I didn't ever live in a place long enough, which is why the story I think is so close to my heart, is because I've always lived with that feeling of where do I belong? And I've had to accept that as well, that I belong to several different places. A lot of different events in my life have shaped me into the person I am now, the people I've met through my journeys. And that's how the book ends as well with Durga. I think her acceptance of that and that she doesn't have to give one up for the other.
I just thought it was beautiful. I mean, I loved Dirty Laundry, but
Hmm.
and usually the domestic thriller is my my of choice. But
Hmm.
this was just so lovely. I just
Well,
absolutely
thank you.
drank in every page and every word, and it was wonderful. I love it. I think this book is going to I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people from a lot of
Hmm.
different cultures. I think it's a good
Hmm.
book club book. I think it's just a good read in general, and it's a good coming of age story for somebody
Yeah.
who's an adult. I mean, I say this
Yeah.
a lot on this show, but I don't think coming of age stories need to be about adolescence
No,
specifically,
not
because
necessarily. Yeah,
there's different
exactly.
ages that we come from.
Absolutely. And every decade, I feel like I'm a different person, or rather, a different version of the person I was in the previous decade. So, yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, what is it? We shed our skin every 7 years.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thank you so much, Disha. This is wonderful. Check out this book. It is, like I said, gorgeous.
Oh,
I
thank you.
don't want to spoil a lot of the plot points that I'm talking around,
Mhm.
but you'll get to them.
There's surprises. Yeah,
You must
there's
read it.
surprises.
But yeah, so once again, this was Jessikah, and we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.